Tonight, we are going to be talking about my pet passion, which is how you can get your voice really working for you. I've been working in this field for a very long time, and 35 years at least, which tells you I'm really quite old. And in all the time I've been working with different people on their voice skill, I've gathered so much information about what works. So, the first thing I want to share with you today is that the way I teach voice is not like any other voice trainer that I've ever come across. In fact, I've worked with people who've already had voice training, and it's still completely different because I have a different perspective. And today I'm going to introduce you to that perspective. The way I like to work is kind of reverse engineering. So I am not training people to have a gorgeous voice, although I think that's lovely. And we all need to have a voice that is enough pleasant to listen to that people will listen to it. But it's really only the tip of the iceberg. And I put a post on Facebook the other day to ask people, if you, in less than 8 words, what would you say about your voice? And lots of people answered, and some people said, I believe my voice is very soothing. Some people said, I think I have a great hypnotic voice. Some people said I have a very wide pitch range. There were all sorts of comments. But what nobody said is the thing that most interests me. Nobody said, I have a thoroughly flexible voice that can be the right voice for the circumstances and the situation so that I get the result that I want. And that is the way I like to work. So tonight is a little taster. We've only got an hour together, and I don't know, I guess you're all used to Zoom now, but Zoom sessions go really fast. So we're going to squeeze in a lot in the hour. And at the end of the hour, well, before we get to the end, we will have a Q&A. So if you've got some burning question about something that you want to achieve with your voice, you will have a chance. But I want to take you through a few ideas to start to get you thinking about this incredible tool that you have. So if I say to you, what's your voice for? Maybe an answer pops up into your head. If I said to you, what are your legs for? You might say, well, my legs are for walking. But then I would want to add, and kicking, and jumping, and hopping and skipping, and maybe even wrapping around your lover. You know, legs are useful for lots of different things, and so is a voice. So if you think that your voice is wonderfully soothing or rich and strong, that's great. In fact, every voice is useful somewhere. But just like behaviors and strategies, there isn't a one voice that is always going to do the job and get you the result you want. So to me, the thing that is really key in the training that I like to do is to broaden the flexibility of what you can do. And in order to start thinking about that, I want to ask you a question. Where did your voice come from? What is this thing? How did you get it? Just have a think about that. You were born with a voice. You could do that right at the start. And you know something? Your hearing is the first sense that develops in the womb. By the time you're born, you can already tell the difference between your mother's voice and anyone else's voice. Before your eyes can focus, you can distinguish whether a voice is soothing, playful, angry, stressed. Tiny babies respond to voice tones. So you come in from the get-go with some abilities. And then in that space of time between the time that you're born and the time that you learn vocabulary, you begin to hone your listening. And I don't know if any of you have seen that wonderful YouTube video of a pair of, I think they're about 1 year old, they're a pair of twins, and they're pretending to have a phone call with each other. And there's not one word of vocabulary that goes between them. But the tones and tunes are beautiful. And in fact, what you can tell from the tones and tunes is how their parents talk on the phone, because that's where they picked it up from. So what happens to us is we start to listen to the tones and tunes, and we start to make sense, emotional sense of what those tones and tunes mean. And then we learn words. And as we learn words, we start to pay conscious attention to the words themselves. But the responses to the tones and tunes doesn't go away. It stays, and it's unconscious. Now, most people, for example, when you're giving a presentation and you stand up in front of a group or appear on a Zoom call, if you ask them about their impression of you, they might be able to tell you a bit about the sort of clothes you were wearing. So if I was wearing a raggedy t-shirt and I looked like I was, just hair all over the place, just come back from a dog walk, maybe a bit bedraggled, you might notice that you notice that. But with a voice, people don't really notice that much. And what's so cool about that is because it's unconscious, it is super powerful. That means that by adjusting the tones and the tunes that you use, the energy that you put into your voice, how you use your physiology, and the emotional state that is coming through those tones and tunes, and they're working on your listeners unconsciously. And to me, that means, wow, I want to know more about how that works. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I have watched people give talks and presentations where the material's super interesting, but it's delivered so boringly that I want to click away or I'm going to give in. Any of you noticed that? And I can tell you that I've also witnessed presentations that are actually boring. I've trained quite a few executives to deliver, for example, their financial results. And as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't get a lot more boring than that. But you know what? There is a way to deliver that information so it becomes fascinating. And all of that is done with the tones and tunes. So on my sessions, either one-to-one, whoever they're with, whether they're with business executives or other NLP practitioners, for those of you who are not NLP practitioners, I am an NLP consultant, that's neuro-linguistic programming, and I do work with people on all sorts of issues. But my main talent, I've got to say, and the thing that really lights me up is when I can work with somebody on how they communicate through the tones and tunes. So when they've got the language patterns and they've got a great message, they can deliver it so that they get the responses that they want. And there's an expression in neuro-linguistic programming. We sometimes talk about the elegant solution. And that's an engineering term, which is to do with when you have an equation which is balanced. If you change one side of the equation, it affects the other side of the equation. And the elegant solution is when you can do the smallest thing on one side and have the greatest effect on the other. And what I've discovered from my work with people and their voices is that just with a small investment of your time and attention, maybe a little bit of money, but that investment of your attention pays massive dividends. So whether you want to use your voice to talk to your family, your kids, your husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, or whether you want to use it as a business tool, this is a tool and it can change the results that you get. And when you get a response that is not quite what you want, really that's a moment to go, ooh, I could try something a little bit different. And when we work together, the way I like to work is in groups, better than one-to-one, because then we have a few people to give feedback. So here's the next thing about your voice. It's unique, first of all. It's as unique as your fingerprints. It's as unique as your retina. Everybody has their own voice. And it is a combination of the way you're built physically and how you're feeling. That's what's coming through your voice. So, you know what? When we work together, getting feedback from other people will give you an idea of what's happening to other people when you talk. Because, as I frequently tell my lovely father, it's not all about just vomiting out what's inside you. It's about it landing in the other person the way you mean it to land. Because if you're saying something and they're hearing something else, you may as well have said something else. And actually, in my old age, I'm really learning that with some people, I'm just not even going to bother at all. There are a few people that I've come across who are almost incapable of hearing. They're so busy talking on the inside that they're not really listening to the outside world at all. Well, in that case, I'm going to save my energy. But for those people who do listen, what I want is to do something to you by speaking to you. It's my gift to you. And you know what? When you get a gift, do you want something that hasn't been thought about, isn't wrapped nicely, and is just thrown at you? Or do you want something that somebody has chosen especially for you, wrapped it beautifully, and given it to you with love? It's a gift. And the energy that you spend in talking is your gift. And I want to help you to make that gift count. And there's another thing, which is the way you speak on the outside isn't the only thing that your voice is for. It's also how we talk to ourselves on the inside. And you know what? Changing the tones and tunes that you use on the inside can have such a profound effect. It can change you to feel like doing something you didn't feel like doing. It can comfort you when something's gone wrong. It can cheer you on when you need a bit of help to get something finished. That voice inside your head has huge impact. And the way I like to work is I want to address all of this so that in as short a time as possible, we can get something happening for you that really enhances your life. Most people take their voices for granted. And a lot of people say to me, well, this is just my voice. I'm stuck with it. But you know what? I could say, well, I'm stuck with my skinny arms. But you know what? If I really didn't like my skinny arms, I could get down to the gym and lift some weights. And eventually my skinny arms would get some muscle on them. This is part of your body. And you can train it the same as you can teach any part of your body to operate more the way you want it to. So whatever your voice is like now, there's going to be some things that you can do which will optimize how you communicate so that whatever it is you're saying, you can get better results. And that is the focus of my work. I think it is applicable to absolutely anybody. I think it's particularly applicable at the moment. You know, we're working across Zooms, and that means some sensory information is cut out. Also, a lot of people are doing podcasts and videos and Facebook Lives. And at that point, your voice is really key to how people are going to hear your message. How often have you gone to a Facebook Live and then clicked away after a few seconds? And what made you do that? Just think about it. What didn't grab you? Was it really only the content? Or was it something about how it made you feel? Whether it kind of engaged you and pulled you in, whether it tantalized you, whether it tempted you, whether it had that magical quality that made you go, I can't switch off yet. I can't switch off yet. And you stayed with it right to the end. Now, I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one that's had that experience. Can I see a few head nods? Anybody here had that experience? Right, of course, because, you know, this is absolutely a fundamental part of the package. And I don't know if any of you are old enough, like I am, to remember that back in the day, there was a statistic which just was bandied around every communication skills course going. And it was come up with by a guy, I think his name was Morabian. And he said that when you're communicating, 55% of your body, of your communication is your body language, your facial expressions and how you move your body. He said 38% is your voice tones and only 7% are the words themselves. Well, first of all, I dispute that. I think that the words are really important. Second of all, I particularly dispute it when you're on the telephone and when somebody's listening to a poddy. Because if you're listening to a podcast, that 55% is gone for starters. We are all communicating so differently these days, and we need to be up to speed. So whether it's to talk to your family or to run your business or to see clients, a little bit of time spent working on your voice will pay dividends. And it will also help you on the inside, and it will help you with every aspect of your life for just a little bit of time. And today, we're gonna do a little bit of work. Obviously, I can't do a huge amount. We are going to do a little exercise. So I would say in the exercise that we're going to do, it's just going to be a quick exercise. If you can't stay for the whole exercise or you don't want to do it, you're welcome to go at that point and come out of this group. But stay with us until we get to the exercise, at least if you can. And then when the exercise comes, I'll explain it to you. So here's a weird fact. You can't really hear the distinctions in a voice until you can make the sound. Now, that was taught to me by my mentor. And when she first said it to me, I thought, nah, that can't be right. You've got to hear it before you can make it. But actually, there's a lot of truth in it. She found this out when she was working with an African tribe called the Kabiye. And any of you who've listened to my 7 Ages of the Voice recording will have heard about it. There's a word in Kabiye that means one thing, and another word which is so slightly different, but it means something else completely. And the whole tribe always laughs at the children for making the same mistake, which is they can't make the distinction yet and they can't hear it. But the day they learn to make the new sound is the day they can hear it. Once you can make the different sounds that your voice is capable of, the other benefit of this work is you can hear what other people are saying with many more refined distinctions. Because once you can hear where a voice is getting blocked, which muscles are working more than others, you can really tune in to the state of mind or the mood that the person who's speaking is speaking from. And this is where sometimes it goes wrong. And there are only two things that can really go wrong. Let me see if I can do a little screen share here. Let me share this and let me go on to the next slide. How do I do it? Okay. All right, now I want to pause. Oh, I can't pause it. All right, let me stop screen sharing if my mouse will work. Oh, I've got a stuck mouse. Let's just escape from that. Stop the share. That's better. Did you see that? There are only two things that can really go wrong with a voice. One is that you haven't calibrated what it's like on the outside, because you can't hear your voice on the inside the same as somebody can hear it on the outside. So one of the things that people often bring to me is that people are asking them to repeat themselves a lot. But to them, it sounds really loud and clear. On the outside, it doesn't. And you see, my voice is still very clear on the inside of my head right now. I can hear everything I'm saying, but can you? Really? I don't know. I mean, maybe you can just about. One of the things about not being able to hear somebody well is that after a while we switch off. How long are you going to work really hard to hear what somebody says? So it's really important to get that feedback to find out, can you hear me? Am I speaking clearly? Then there are some people which are in the opposite direction. And when I first moved to the country from London, I noticed I was getting a weird response from my neighbours, and I couldn't work out what it was until I realised that I had my London voice on. And in London, there's a lot of background noise and a lot of competition. So everybody speaks louder. Out here in the quiet countryside, people speak more quietly. And so my voice sounded blasting. And that's as unpleasant as having to work really hard. And I had to learn to tune my ears in as well as to quieten down a little bit so that it felt okay. Now, volume isn't the only thing. There's the speed we speak and how often we pause and, what shapes we make with our mouths, the muscle movements. But the aim of my work is to expand the flexibility of what you can do so that you can speak on purpose. Now, any of my NLP colleagues who work with Dr. Richard Bandler will know that his up-to-date work is about thinking on purpose. And I really loved that when I heard it from him. It's about working with the thoughts that we have so that they support us. And this is the vocal version of that. This is where you get to use your voice on purpose so that it does what you intend and it lands the way you want it in your listeners. Does that sound interesting? Yes, I've got a few head nods, few thumbs up. Good, good, good. So you know what then? Let's do a little experiment. Let me see how many people I've got here. Okay. It's interesting, isn't it? 40 people signed up. I've got 24 people here. You never can tell. So let me see. Let me just work on how I can get about 3 people per room. There we go. So in a minute, what I'm going to do is click the button, and I'm sure you've all worked on Zoom before and you know about the breakout rooms. What's going to happen is I'm going to put a piece of text into the chat box. And there are going to be 3 of you in a room, and it's going to be a random threesome. So I don't have the chance to choose who works with who, but you'll work with 2 other people. What I want you to do is I want you to take turns. When it's your turn to speak, I want you to switch off your video camera so that they are just listening to you. This short piece of text, which is a poem by Longfellow, I'll show it to you. Let's see if I can show it to you now. Let's go back into this and get to the next slide. Come on, next slide. No, not that one. Next slide. Wait. Next slide. No. Hold on, guys. It's this one I want you to see. There we go. Can you see that? Oh, I can't see you. So I'm assuming that you can see that. And it's a little poem by Longfellow, a little extract. And what you're going to do is read this little poem out 3 times. One time, you're going to make it sound soothing. One time, you're going to make it sound funny. And one time, I want you to make it sound exciting. Now, once you've done that, and I want you to do it in any order. I want you to choose the order in which you do it. I'm going to put it in the chat box so you'll have access to what you need to do. Let me just get it. This is going to everyone. Oh, no, it's not going to anyone. I'll get that in. Here we go. My mouse is not acting as I would like it. Here we go. Copy and paste and give it to everyone. No, everyone. Oh, here we go. There we go. Right, that should have turned up in your chat box now. So the idea in this exercise is you mix it up. You mix up soothing, humorous, and exciting, and you do it in any order that you choose. When you've read out the text 3 times in these 3 different ways in an order of your choice, you put your video camera back on and let the other 2 people tell you which order you did it in. Now, there's a lovely assumption in NLP, which is called no such thing as failure, only feedback. So whatever the people say to you, it's not a failure, even if they can't tell the difference between them. It's just feedback. I had one guy on a course once, and I loved it. He did this exercise, and every time he tried to do serious, I gave him a different set of criteria. And every time he did serious, people thought it was funny. And here's the cool thing. Once he knew how he sounded funny, he could really use that. And he started to make his clients giggle, and everybody liked him more, and his wife was much happier. Everyone was happy. He'd just calibrated it wrong. Sometimes we just don't realize the effect our voice is having. And that is why it's so useful to work with other people. Because once you're in a group, they can give you the feedback and then you find out. So you're going to find out in this exercise whether you're doing what you think you're doing. That's number one. And my advice is to do it playfully. You know, all work is better done playfully. You'll get better results if you don't take yourself too seriously. Just give it a go. It doesn't matter if you don't do it right. It doesn't matter if you don't like it. Just do it and see what happens. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to decide who goes first, second, and third. And in that time, you can decide which order you're going to read in. And then you switch off your video camera, person number one, and go for it. You've got 15 minutes. That'll easily give you time. At any point, you can put your hand up if you need help when you're in the breakout room. It's on your control panel. And I'd just like you to do it and see how you do. So before I send you off to your breakout rooms, has anybody got a question about this exercise? Everybody got it? Okay. Here we go then, guys. Here we go. Still be here with their cameras off, but who did not go to breakout rooms. Okay. Never mind. I hope you all at least had one person. It looked like you did. So how did you get on? Anybody here find that it was difficult to make the distinctions? Oh, okay. You know, sometimes we think that people can really hear the difference in our voices, and they can't. And of course, that is one thing that I'm going to help anybody who comes on the longer course, because as you know, this is a taster for what I'm going to be doing in September. And in a moment, we're going to take some questions and answers. But before we do that, is there anything that any of you would like to say about that exercise? Any questions from that exercise, or any thoughts, or any gold that you already... Oh, I have an echo, do I? Me, Laura, Kathy? Where are you, Kathy? I can't hear you. Unmute yourself.
Yes, Laura, you're having echo now.
Do I now? Let's have a look here.
Oh. It might be just if people aren't muted and your voice is coming through their computer. So if everyone mutes themselves, it should be okay.
Hold on. It
The
should be
echo
okay.
disappeared when we all muted ourselves again.
Do I have an echo now? Thank
Nope.
you very much for the feedback.
No.
Good. That's great. So does anybody here want to say anything about their experience in the exercise? Yes, Maria.
Yes. It was super fun. It was, and especially since normally we look at each other, and then when we had to turn off the camera, and I felt I was so leaned forward, you know, into the computer to like really listen to every word, and I got it, and it was, before we started, I even told her not to speak like very super fast, you know, since English is not my mother tongue and she has an accent, beautiful one, and we did it, and we laughed, and it was so much fun, and we just decided that this text is something actually worth practicing more on. You know, read it sadly, read it happily. You know, this is great. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome. That's a great little exercise just to find out, am I making the impression that I think I'm making? That's about the calibration. And of course, the other thing that goes wrong for people is when they're in a difficult emotional state. And one of the things about your voice is that stress really affects your vocal tract. It takes less than a 300th of a second. That's pretty much instant for adrenaline to hit your vocal tract. And what it does is it stiffens it. Now, from an evolutionary point of view, that is quite useful, because if you're in a fight or flight situation, you want your vocal tract not to be so expressive. You don't want to give away your emotions if you're about to have a fight with somebody. So some people's voices get much more monotonous when they're stressed. And one of the things that we'll certainly be doing on the 6-session course is, how do you undo that? How do you change the sound of stress? Some people sound more monotonous. Some people sound more high-pitched. That's one that I think we all recognize too, isn't it? When you hear somebody that normally sounds perfectly deep toned, and suddenly their voice goes up about 3 octaves and they're telling you, don't do that, leave me alone, whatever. So, you know, we do need a way of dealing with the effects of our emotions on our voices in case our emotions aren't quite appropriate. But ultimately, what I want for you is for you to be fully congruent, which means that your body language, your voice tone, and the content all deliver the same message. Because when you're doing that, then your message is much more likely to land in your listener. So, any other comments from this exercise? Yes, Linda, unmute yourself.
Hi, Laura.
Hi.
Thanks for that. That was really interesting. I found Kathy's feedback really interesting with the excitement bit, because I felt that I was coming across as really fake.
Right.
And she didn't feel that way at all. In fact, I think she felt I could have exaggerated more.
Yeah.
So that's really useful feedback.
Yeah. You would be surprised how expressive you can get before it's too expressive. And there is too expressive. So you don't want to go over the top, but sometimes you need to work with somebody and go, well, if I do it even more, does this sound over the top? Because once you can feel it in your body and hear it as a feedback loop and get the feedback, your brain will reset. And so then it becomes easy to sound more exciting when you need to without feeling fake. I'm really into authentic. I don't want anybody to be faking it. You know, I can teach you tricks to fake it, but that won't be what we're doing on the course. I want it to be really authentic. And so it involves feeling excited. Let's start there. And then when you're feeling really excited, once you get the calibration right and you know how it's landing in the other person, then there's a whole feedback loop that can happen, which means that it permanently fixes in you what you need to do to convey that emotion. So I'm so glad you brought that up, Linda. That's very useful. Thank you.
Yeah, really interesting. Thanks.
Cool. So we are going to do a quick Q&A in case anybody here has a particular question, especially if it's got to do with, you know, will you be doing this on the course or that on the course, or it can just be something that you want to know here and now. On the 6-week course, I'm going to be trying to cover as much as possible, but I can't cover everything. But it will be all the basics. And I do promise, if you decide to join me on that course, that you will come out of it with a whole new toolbox, a whole new set of skills, and it will help you to do whatever you want to do more effectively. So I hope that at least some of you will join. I'm not going to run it unless I can get 10 people in the door. And so I hope that at least some of you will decide to join me for that. And let me just quickly show you before we do the Q&A. This. So this is what I think we're going to be doing. I want to show you how to warm up your voice, because a lot of people expect a great deal from their voice. But if you don't warm it up when you're about to do a lot of speaking, then you can end up hurting your voice. And I want to share with you a few of the discoveries that I've made, like the 4 biggest mistakes people make and what your talents already are. I want to show you how you can become more engaging and never sound boring, how you can help somebody to know they can trust you if you're genuinely trustworthy, and how you can convey authority, because this is something that a lot of people bring to me. They say that, you know, they're a bit of a lightweight and people aren't taking them seriously, or they're not being heard in meetings. And there are some really simple things I can teach you to make that happen right. How you can have more rapport with people by just using your voice, how you can sound more powerful and confident, and how you can listen better. So those are the things that we'll certainly be covering, but knowing me, there'll be more to it. And any of you who've worked with me before know that you're going to get good value if you come to work with me. And if anybody here needs a little bit of one-to-one time and they're signed up for my course, I'm sure we can add a little of that in too. So now I've said my bit and we've only got a few minutes left. So has anybody here got a burning question they want to ask me about voices? I think I've got 2 screens to look at. Let's have a look here. Nobody got a single question.
I've got a question.
Cool, thank you, Jane.
It's for me personally, though. It's Laura, for now, if there's one thing that you would say to me to help my voice and project and everything, what would it be?
Well, your challenge, you've got a beautiful accent, and it's something to be really proud of, particularly if you're working with multi-cultures, multinational audience. It's important to be clear, but you know what? I've noticed you getting a lot clearer recently, which I'm really happy about. That's fantastic. And what I would love to do if I was working with you is show you how to put more weight into your voice. Not always, because your voice is sweet and you come across so friendly and lovely and approachable, and people are going to like you because of the sound of your voice and feel at ease with you. But I would like to challenge and check that when you want to come across with power and authority, that you can do that. And if you can't, I'd like to show you how, because it's pretty simple and I could easily do that. Maria.
Yeah, a couple of questions. One is, if somebody already have a feeling that their voice is pretty good, let's say some males in the audience maybe that are like authoritative figures, fathers, leaders, what would you say to them to persuade them, or not persuade them, but like tell them what they will get from the course when you talk about broaden the voice? What do they need?
Well, to expand their repertoire, because I know a lot of the voices here in this room, and there are some gorgeous voices here, but it's not the only thing. You know, some people are really, really good at sounding upbeat or motivating, and maybe not quite so good at the soothing. Some people are really, they've got a rich, gorgeous, fabulous voice for hypnotic work, but are they good at exciting and, you know, really kind of getting somebody motivated and ready to rock and roll? There's always more. One of the things that Richard Bandler says is whenever you think you've got the whole story, there's more. There's always more. And I will be paying attention to the people who come to train with me, and I will be looking for those really useful pieces that I can add to what they can do so they can do something even better.
And I also want to ask you about projecting voice, because that's something I really love. I remember we did it one time in like there was a bandla training, and we were working with how we could send our voice without the mic, because sometimes you're in a place and mic stops working or something. How do you project your voice? Is that something you will cover in the course as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Though I've got to say these days, because we're all working through speakers and microphones, things are a little different. But, you know, just like getting that feedback earlier from Kathy, thank you so much, Kathy, you know, we need to give each other feedback. And everything that we need to cover, all the basics, we will cover on that 6-week course. And I will make sure that I leave space so that if we haven't covered something that somebody in the group wants me to cover, we will cover it. And after 35 years, I would be really surprised if anybody could come up with something that I've never had to help someone with before. So I reckon that I could help you to do just about anything you want with your voice.
Thank you.
So I know first, I don't know how to pronounce your name.
Moitza. Yeah.
So
So
first,
very.
and Danny. Okay, Moitza.
Yeah, I have a very quick one. I think it's quick. How will it look like in the 6 weeks? Is it one weekly meeting, or will there be assignments and feedback? Or how will it work kind of practically?
So it will be one meeting a week of 90 minutes. There will be homework, and there will be assignments to go out and practice various skills and how to practice them, because it's how you get good at things. So there will be that, and there will also be contact in the intermediate time, either via a Facebook group or a messaging group, so that you can let me know what's going on and I can keep track of your progress and help you if there's any moments that you need some help. So that's the way I'm planning it. I'm open to, you know, I'm pretty flexible too. So if there's something that somebody wants that I hadn't thought of, we'll find a way to do it.
Okay.
So the idea of the 6-week course is that it will be tailored to get you your results.
Perfect.
That's the idea. You're welcome. Dan.
Yeah, I'm interested in vocal stamina, because if you have to talk for hours and hours, and I've had to do that, and I always have to have water and cough drops, and I do some exercises as well, but I would be interested in what else I can do.
Sure. Well, water's really important. And if you've got a big thing going on the next day, what I would recommend is that in the day before, that you drink a lot of water. So that if you're drinking a lot of water while you're speaking, you're going to have to keep taking breaks to go to the loo. So what you can do is drink a lot of water the day before, which hydrates the whole system. And then on the day itself, to have a warm drink to sip, because that warmth over your vocal tract keeps it moving very flexibly. But the other thing is, if you're using the muscles really correctly and you're supporting your voice with your breath fully, your voice is far less likely to get tired. But I've done a lot of work with teachers who often bring that particular issue to me. And there are ways of using your voice where it is so smooth that it just doesn't strain it. And if you can keep the rest of your stamina going, you can keep your voice going. Me, I'm 66 now. I don't take on gigs that run all day anymore. I just don't have the stamina for it. 90 minutes is good for me.
You're young, Laura. You're such a spring chicken. Yes. I got a question. when you are not a native speaker and you're having an accent like I do, I would be interested in how does that sound to, how does that feel to sound and feel to English native speakers, like to English people or to people from the US or so. I don't have a feeling for it. And the people around me whom I ask are lying to me. So I would like to have an honest answer at some point.
Sure. Well, just very briefly now, your English is amazing, Christine. You sound mostly American. So you've got an American accent in English, okay, and to me, and it's very clear and very pleasant. You know, sometimes people come to me and ask me to get rid of their accents, and my answer is no. I think accents are fabulous. I think they're an advantage. They're interesting, they're engaging, and mostly really beautiful to my ears. There's very few accents that I don't love the sound of. So your accent is just lovely. And I wouldn't want to do anything to spoil it.
And there's no such thing as getting rid of an accent.
Well, if you do,
I tried.
well, I tell you, there are a couple of accent coaches that when people ask me for somebody to, if they want to change their accent, I send them to them because I can't do it. That just feels sad to me. I love accents. And, you know, it used to be that if you wanted to broadcast, you had to have the Queen's English in English, and you had to have BBC English. But we're long past that crap now, thank heavens. And we celebrate accents. And, you know, different accents bring different things. Like every voice has its wonderfulness. And I think it's really worth celebrating an accent. Sometimes I just speak with an accent because I think it sounds more interesting. For no reason other than my own fun. There you go. Mozart, are you hand up again, or is that just still your hand up from before? Okay, good. Anybody else? Yes, Kathy, unmute.
Hi, Laura.
Hi.
One of the things that I've gotten tons of feedback about has been when I'm confused, the tone that they hear is angry or something else entirely. And I've worked at it, but I keep getting it back, and it's more in personal settings, because in client I get all this, your tone is brilliant, but in personal settings my tone keeps coming back to me. And yeah, so what would you do with that?
Well, I could certainly help you to work out how to sound confused instead of
Or just get different family.
well, that's always
that seems a little extreme.
the dog, and she's taken herself outside. Come on in, Freya. I'm nearly coming to take you for a walk. So yeah, I could definitely help you with that, Kathy. At this point, I don't quite know how I'd go about it. I'd need to talk to you more about when it happens and how it happens and what the feeling is inside that sounds that way. But there will be a way to do it, and it'll be fun. And once you've got it, it will just click in, so that you won't sound angry anymore. I'd need to hear you sounding confused.
Well, that's my guess, is that I think I'm confused and I'm trying to find stuff out, or I think I'm explaining something and then someone gives me a look of, they don't understand it. So I move forward again, trying to explain it, but they hear that I think they're an absolute muppet. Whereas I'm really kind of going, I have no idea how else to say this.
Right.
So, and so I kind of slow down and start again. And I mean, and I've put a huge amount of work into figuring this out, and it's just not, so I'd have to, like, in advance go, I'm not sure how it's coming across, but really it's all, I've no idea what you're picking up. So and I don't know what I've said or not said that is putting that look on your face. So let me try again. So, you know.
I have one question, and I don't need you to answer it here. But my question would be, when you feel puzzled or confused, are you a bit angry with yourself for feeling puzzled or confused? Or are you genuinely, cleanly just like trying to work out what the hell's going on?
I'm really trying to work out what's going on.
Okay. All right.